Get started. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to wherever you are in the world. I'm here with you to share the 5 secrets to agelessness and, of course, happiness. What good is it to be ageless if you can't be happy too? Am I right? Put a yes in the chat if you agree with me. Um, so today we're going to go over some of the secrets, a little bit of the science, and we're going to talk to you and find out where you are in the cycle. And this is Passion Coach Robin. I forgot to introduce myself. Okay, so if you're ready to shed the stress, to stop feeling old and enjoy every day being happy, energized, vital, and able to design with confidence some real fun into your life, maybe even an eat, pray, love experience, put a yes in the chat. In fact, for those students that actually complete the 9-month program with me and go on, our goal is together is to actually design one of those eat, pray, love experiences somewhere in the world where we can all participate. But I don't want to get into that right now. I would rather, and before I forget, don't take notes. I want you to fully participate and enjoy and be engaged in the experience. So don't worry, because at the end, for everybody who's participated, I'll be sharing the slides and any notes with you. And the best way to participate in that is to actually join my Facebook group, Blue Sky Lifestyle Tribe. And there'll be a link for you to do that at the end of this experience. So hang in there with me. Okay. And when you stay until the end, I have an additional surprise for you. In fact, more than one. So hang in there with me. Okay, let's practice a little bit of feeling some happiness. I am going to ask you to do a short exercise with me. And wherever you are right now on that emotion scale, whether you're sad or happy or anxious or a little overwhelmed or not sure what to expect, I'm going to try and level out the playing field a little bit with this exercise. So wake up, everyone. We're going to do an exercise that involves smile. Now, just the simple act of smiling releases emotional and physical tension. There's a mind-body connection that promotes overall well-being and triggers endorphins. And endorphins are our friends. So everybody, stand up if you can. I'm going to stay seated, so I stay with the camera. Put your feet shoulder width apart. Take a deep breath. Got to move my chair a little bit. Take a deep breath and open your arms up wide and smile while you're taking that deep breath and stretching broadly and hold. Put your shoulders back. Enjoy the stretch. And then relax. Bring those arms down, but keep smiling. Now we're going to bring our arms back up, put our hands over our heart. Close your eyes for me. Take a deep breath. Expand those shoulders back. And think of something that you're grateful for. For me, no contest. I'm grateful that I'm here today with you. Absolutely excited and thrilled and grateful that you're joining me today. Mm. Okay, we're going to relax now and put our arms down. I would love it if you all would just share in the chat exactly how that made you feel. Did it wake you up a little bit? Did it really genuinely bring a smile to your face? Because that smile is actually the acronym of what we're going to study today together. But before we get into those words, I want to give you a little bit of a story about where I came from and why I'm here. First of all, right now, not only am I grateful to be here with you, but overall, I feel happy. I feel at purpose with life. I feel empowered, even guided every morning that I wake up. I'm grateful for the beautiful ocean that I live next to. I get to walk there whenever I feel like it. My relationships are strong with family and friends. I feel grateful and blessed for every daily experience that comes my way. And I feel that joy and peace for living on purpose. I also have a really exciting podcast on YouTube called Women of Passion and Legacy. I encourage you to go check it out. You can search for that in the search bar on YouTube. I interview women from all around the world who are living with purpose and impact. But that's not why we're here today. Really, what I'm here for you, I'm here for you today. So, again, let me tell you a little bit about me, and then we'll get into the details. So, even though I love life right now, even though I have a beautiful experience of life right now, it wasn't always that way. When I think back, like everyone, my life had stresses and some extremely painful lessons. Um, I was actually very depressed as a young adult, and I struggled with feeling of any importance or any sense of love, honestly. But because I'm Taurus and I have a very stubborn drive, I decided at an early age that I needed to be of value. So, what did that mean for me at that point in time? Well, I got an excellent education and I went on and I achieved leadership positions in electronics industry up in Silicon Valley. I owned a small ranch on the coast in Santa Cruz. And although I looked successful on the outside, I really wasn't happy. I was still depressed. I was still operating from that sense of feeling unloved and unimportant. So, because of that emotional insecurity, after bouncing around a lot, at about the age of 34, I married a narcissist and a sociopath. I didn't know it at the time, but ultimately I ended up having to run and escape with my three little ones, who at that point in time were all under the age of 5. So, as a single parent of three children, I was solely responsible for their physical, their emotional, and their financial well being. And that was hard for a lot of years. In fact, in the beginning, when I first came to the new community that I'm in now, I ended up in a tent with my three children. Again, they were all around the age, well, under the age of 5 by that time. Um, I lived in a tent. I was homeless, and it was hard. But as soon as I was able to find that job again, that leadership position again in the community, again, going back to just my sheer tenacity, I was able to move out and into an apartment. But it continued to be a dark time for me for a number of years. I had to fight through the court system to protect my children. I had to fight with regards to the leadership positions and my work. And over time, well, from the beginning, really, from the moment they were born, my children became my entire world and my entire purpose. in life. And that continued. So fast forward 30 years. Now keep in mind, by then I was 65, in fact, a little bit older. My children had grown up. They were gone, and I was alone. And although I'm proud of my children because they're all very capable and strong individuals on their own and doing well, in that process of letting go, in that process of them moving on, they reminded me regularly, sometimes nicely, sometimes not so much, that I was no longer needed for their decisions, that I needed to back off, and that they were equipped to make their own decisions and to make their own way in life. That was hard. That was very hard, given that they were my whole world and purpose. At work, again, I was still working. I was over 65. Um, I felt invisible still. I felt of no importance. And by that time, here I'm in my 60s, the youth were as leaders growing up past me, leading me behind, in making that feeling of invisibility and an unimportance even more. So in response to those changes, in response to recognizing that I was no longer really needed as a parent as far as making decisions and providing the well being, I also recognized I needed to move forward myself. Okay. And I went back because the truth is that when I was younger in college and all the way through my life, I studied meditation and I did a lot of work, again, because of being actually suicidal when I was younger. I went through psychological counseling. I studied with teachers. The interesting thing is that masters seem to come out of the woodwork and guides and work with me. So I had the tools that I'd acquired over decades. And yet it was time now, finally, to put them to work for me to really find my life of purpose, find my life living alone that I hadn't really experienced. So after thinking about that and doing a lot of research, I decided that I was going to go to Ecuador. I'd heard a lot of wonderful things about it. I thought maybe I could retire down there, not be a burden to my children, and live happily in Ecuador. So I went down there with the intent of checking it out. Well, what ended up happening was quite a bit different. What ended up happening was I had the time of my life. I really did. I discovered a part of me that I'm not even sure I ever knew before. I created adventures for myself. I loved getting out and meeting new people. I allowed myself to be free. I allowed myself to really find the adventurous, the fun side of me. And after a couple of months of doing that, I realized I needed to come home. It was time. And so I came back to the United States. And even though that adventurous side had been something that just absolutely was spectacular for me, I knew enough to know, and I had the tools enough to know that there was more to it. There was more to me than just that wild and crazy adventurous side. There was the woman who'd been through the decades of lessons and pains and blessings and joys and ups and downs. And I knew that I had to integrate that adventurous young self with the experienced woman who had wisdom that she had gained through a lifetime of learning. And that's what I did. So for my 70th birthday, I decided to celebrate. I felt like an entirely new person. I was free in the sense of being alone and yet feeling good about being alone. Yes, my children are still very important to me and I love them dearly, but I don't rely on them anymore. And I felt like I could express that adventurous self. I could get out, I could do what I wanted. In fact, I'm already planning my next adventure. But for my 70th birthday, I jumped out of an airplane. Yeah, skydiving was a celebration for me. It wasn't about the thrill, it was about celebrating the woman that I had become and the fact that I had pulled together those decades of learning, those decades of experience with masters and teachers and study and meditation and more. I pulled it all together into a framework that not only worked for me, but I knew would work for other people too. So I celebrated and I loved it. So now I'm equipped, I'm experienced, I'm knowledgeable, I have a framework that's ready to go to work for you. Plus, I have genuine, loving support for each and every one of my clients to really be able to blossom into that person that they truly are, who is grateful for the journey, regardless of the pains, and for the lessons and for the blessings so far. That person within you who's ready for those who's ready to let go, to get rid of those frustrations, the process of aging, okay? Let it go. It's time to move forward, not feel left behind and inconsequential. It's time to really blossom, not only as yourself in your home, but also in your community and at work if you're still working. So if you're at a loss as to how to acquire that renewed zest for life, maybe even your excitement at work, and definitely to feel a purpose, of consequence, of importance in your own right, you're in the right place. You're not, as you age, entering a phase that simply leads to death. Quite the opposite. You're in a time where you can finally find and be the core of who you are and who you came here to be, to design your legacy in life as the beautiful, important soul that you truly are. There's no one else like you on this earth. And there are many, many reasons why you're here today, why you're here in this life, and what you're here to accomplish, whether it's for your family, for the community, for the nation, for the world, doesn't matter. It's very unique to each of you. It could be as simple as inspiring yourself to be the artist you want to be, or the dancer, or the singer, or the leader, or the bird watcher, or the photographer, or the world traveler. Or it could be writing a book. They say we all have a book in us. So I'd love to see some of the reasons that brought you here today. So let's start there. Share in the chat, or if you're watching this later and you don't have access to that, share in the comments, please. Share in the comments as to why you're watching this now. What is it that brought you here? Do you have difficulty getting out of bed in the morning? If you're working and not retired, do you look forward to your job or your work? Do you struggle with some of the relationships you have, whether it's coworkers, boss, upwardly mobile youth, as I mentioned? If you're retired, how do you feel about your neighbors? Maybe your family, or your sisters, or your extended family, or your partner. Maybe you've been through some recent losses. That's tough. It's very tough. I've been through my own set. I lost a sister and a brother in the last couple of years. So we're going to go back to slides. Let me get back to that, please. And we're going to go to the next slide. And we're going to talk about SMILE. Now, SMILE is an acronym, and it starts with the letter S, of course. So what does S stand for? Silence. It's as simple as that. And what does silence mean? Every morning when you first awake, get into the habit of silence. Now, for some, that means meditation. For others who haven't got that experience or haven't learned meditation, no excuse. You can still go into what I call silence. And when you work with me, I help you learn methods to quiet the brain and to utilize an inner inspection, an inner look that can help you progress. Music can be very helpful, but a certain kind of music. When you go into silence, you're actually in the process of observation and observing your thoughts. And what it does is it quiets the brain. And it quiets the brain into what's called an alpha brainwave, which is the same brainwave that we experience when we're falling asleep. So that's why a lot of first time meditators have difficulty staying awake when they start meditating. As you get more experienced, that doesn't happen as often. Maybe once in a while, but not very often. So music, getting back to that, is an important component to helping your brain get into that alpha brainwave. So there's certain kinds of music that's important, or that is useful, I should say. I particularly enjoy an Om and Native American flute. It's very calming, and it has a certain frequency in the music itself that encourages those alpha brainwaves. Now, as you get more experience, the alpha actually turns into theta brainwaves, and that's when it gets really exciting. But that's not why we're here today. Right now, we're just talking about learning how to go into silence, how to observe your thoughts, how to watch and become silent within yourself. So there's an example of how important silence is with the Buddha. He had something called the flower sermon. Oh, Gigi, let me admit someone here. So I have some people in the waiting room. I'm sorry. So welcome, Chi Chi. It's so good to see you again. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry I didn't see you in the waiting room sooner. So we're talking right now about the flower sermon with the Buddha and the fact that he held that flower out for his top student and he didn't say a word. He remained in silence. He just held the flower for the student to gaze upon that flower. And when he did that, the student knew to stay in silence and gazed and ultimately began to smile. And it was at that moment of the smile that the Buddha knew his student was worthy, that he understood the connection within silence. So let's try that for ourselves. I'm going to change the slide, but for right now, what I want you to do is close your eyes and let's practice this for a minute. While your eyes are closed, take a couple of those deep cleansing breaths that we did before. And one more. And when you've taken that second breath, you can start to flutter your eyes open just a bit and gaze on this flower. Chi-Chi, can you help me? Is the flower showing as it should be? Can you put that in the chat for me? Let's see. I have, there we go. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. For a moment there, I thought maybe I had done the wrong thing. So I apologize. I interrupted everybody. I want you to once again take a deep breath so we can recalibrate a little bit. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, release that breath, and slowly open your eyes and gaze on the flower. Use a soft gaze. Look at the silent, at the flower, and breathe quietly. Imagine the hum from that little bee and allow it to lull you into a calm wonder. And enjoy the color of that center of the flower that almost looks like the sun reaching up with its warmth and comfort. And the petals feel in your mind so velvety. And breathe again and relax. And now flutter your eyes and come back. Okay. Thank you for taking time to do that with me. You can practice that yourself by simply walking outside and finding a flower or something in nature that maybe you wouldn't have noticed if you'd been quickly walking by or in a hurry or just on your way somewhere and looking up and around. Find something you would not have normally noticed and sit down and breathe deeply and gaze and gaze. Chi, I'd love to hear if you had a chance to do that last night. Chi was in my class yesterday, and I'm so grateful that she joined us for the redo. Thank you. Um, so the benefits, I'm going to go back to slides now, so bear with me a moment here. The benefits of silence include improved focus, reduced anxiety, a greater sense of peace, of course. And even over time, there's beneficial changes that have been shown to actually happen through research in the brain structure and the activity of the brain that's associated with relaxation and heightened awareness. There's a bunch of studies that prove this, that both physical and emotional health is improved, including blood pressure and just overall physical health. So silence can really benefit us in so many different ways. How could you all use a little bit extra of that overall well-being? Put a yes in the chat. So what is the M in the word smile? Well, M stands for mindfulness. And what is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness is kind of the next step after silence, but also throughout the day, where you learn to quiet the brain, okay, which we've been learning in silence, but you can do that now with total consciousness. That when you're out and walking about, that you're in a quiet place and that you're in a place of observing instead of, well, you can still be participating, dancing, smiling, whatever you're doing, but you're observing others and you're observing most importantly, your own thoughts, your own emotions. And when you're out in nature, you're not just walking through it, you're actually experiencing it. You're actually observing it, paying attention. Eckhart Tolle has um, a beautiful book called The Power of Now. If you haven't read it, it's an excellent book. But really, you need the tools, you need support to learn how to put it into practice for you. So, mindfulness allows you to choose what what happens to you and how you respond to it. It's a way of taking responsibility, and that's such an important word to remember. Responsibility, your ability to respond instead of react. So if somebody hurls an insult at you, instead of allowing that emotional arrow to penetrate your heart, you're able to stop it, not with reacting, not with getting angry, not with being defensive, but just consciously not allowing it to penetrate. It deflects, it falls to the ground. It doesn't enter into your heart and hurt you. Transcendental thought was a movement back in the early 1800s. And for those of us in the United States, it actually was only a few decades after the Revolutionary War when Emerson, if you've heard of Emerson, the poet, and Henry David Thoreau, who wrote the book On Walden Pond. And what was the on Walden Pond about? Well, on Walden Pond was literally a 2-year, 2-month, 2-day experiment that Henry David Thoreau conducted with himself. He went out into nature, lived in a remote cabin on a lake, and just allowed himself to immerse himself in nature in order to experience that deeper connection within himself, that deeper connection with life and all the natural forces that impact us overall. And his response to that is quite profound. It's in Old English, so it can be a little more difficult to read. I'm not going to read you his quote, but I do encourage you to look at the book. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I'm proud to say that this particular issue that I have is actually has the dedication that my mother gave it to my dad on his birthday in 1943. So this is a treasure of mine. All right, you can practice mindfulness with that same nature walk that we just learned a little bit earlier. And I encourage you to do that. There's a lot of other techniques that I can share with you and processes that I can share with you to raise that mindfulness. It can be it does. It has an incredible impact in your life when you learn to simply be mindful every day and observe rather than participate. Okay, we're going to go back to slides. So here we go. What are the benefits of mindfulness? Again, there's that enhanced emotional regulation. There's better decision making because you're not reacting, you're choosing how you can respond. And there's a deeper appreciation for the present moment. In the brain, again, there's actually research and studies that show greater neuroplasticity. In other words, the ability of the brain to shift and change in response and regulate emotions and be more resilient. All right, let's move on to the I and smile. This is where we dig deep for our intent. Why are we actually here in life? Why are we here in this seminar today? When you work with me, I help you dig deep for your motivation in life, why you're doing this. It's deeper than just feeling better. That's a good reason. That's an excellent reason. It's an excellent reason that brings a smile. But your why is much deeper than that. It's a yearning that goes often way back in our lives, a yearning that we have to identify as to why we're here. As women, we have innate drive to be of service, whether to family, to work, our communities, or the world. In fact, the United Nations did a study, gosh, it's got to be at least 20 years now, where they did an international study of women in their communities, and they really found that women are, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the change makers of their communities. Marianne Williamson has a beautiful quote too. Um, and that is, I'm going to read to you from a book that I have. Marianne Williamson, in her book, A Return to Love, says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? I love that word, fabulous. Actually, who are you to not be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do. Think about that, how children typically shine. They smile. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Think about that. I feel like that's definitely a large part of our purpose here on earth, to shine and to inspire others with that luminescence. Chi Chi has beautiful luminescence. And there's a lot of benefits too, as well as, let's see, I need to go back to screen sharing, I think. Yes. Lots of benefits to intent and finding out what your why is. One of the biggest benefits is that when you're tempted to quit and you remind yourself of your why, it helps you to motivate to keep going. Okay, motivation is extremely important. And when you're doing this kind of work, when we work together, you need to understand why you're doing it, why you're here, why you're putting this energy in so that you don't quit. That was something that I did multiple times as I was moving up through my life. I quit because at that point in time, my only why was my children. It was outside of myself, it wasn't within me. And even though my children were motivating factors, they were to keep our lives growing together. It wasn't the why that really fulfilled what my purpose here on earth is. I love my children deeply, and I will always be grateful for them. In fact, I talk about them being my greatest teachers, and they were, and they are still. But knowing your deepest why is what gives you the ability to identify your next step. It's like a GPS on the slide in front of us. It helps you understand what the next step is for you in your home, in your community, internationally, doesn't matter. Finding your why supports your journey up Maslow's pyramid. If you know Maslow's pyramid, the peak of it is self actualization, self fulfillment. And that's where we're all headed in this life. So when you know your why, you experience, again, that increased resilience when you do hit obstacles. And in the brain, again, the science of it is it's a reward system for achievement. When you achieve something, there's a rapid release of that dopamine again, that great amino acid that just flows and makes us feel so good. Dopamine also has a role to play in controlling memory, in controlling mood and your sleep patterns and learning and concentration and movement and a whole bunch of other bodily functions. So when I work with you, we spend time and lots of exercises helping you identify and embrace your intent, your why, your deepest yearning. So stay through the end of this class. And again, you'll get an opportunity, and I'm opening the gift box a little bit here for a private free call with me. The work of intent is an intensely personal journey, and it's important to work on a personal level with someone to help you figure it out. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. L in the word smile is let go. Let go. Forgive others, but most importantly, well, not a but, and most importantly, forgive yourself. We've all got things that we wish we hadn't have done. And sometimes self-forgiveness is the hardest of all. I know it was for me. But forgiveness is so very important, and there's lots of content and exercises to help you that I can share with you on how to process through that forgiveness. And the Buddha has another beautiful saying. He says, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at somebody, but you're the one who gets burned. The Dalai Lama also has a beautiful insight. He calls those people that are the most difficult to forgive our sacred friends. Think about that, our sacred friends. Why are the people that drive us the most crazy our sacred friends? Because they give us the opportunity to have our own insights and to increase our own potential for growth through forgiveness. Through forgiveness. Pain and loss, even, is the most fertile ground for growth. Remember at all points in time that what you wish for others, you actually wish for yourself. It's like that hot coal. Everyone has a backstory that fuels their fears, their insecurities, their failures, and we react to protect ourselves from these perceived dangers. The combination of your reaction and theirs together, and we get back to this mindfulness again. When you're not mindful, when you're not observing, when you're out of control and you're reacting and they're reacting, it can be lethal. It can be fatal, especially when it's pushed down and carried around. What happens when you push down that anger, that resentment? It actually physically harms you. People who've had cancer talk about that. People who have recovered from cancer talk about how important forgiveness is. Responsibility is remembering to respond with advanced thought and care, just like mindfulness. When we respond instead of reacting, we avoid further engagement, we avoid anger and resentment, And again, there's a lot of exercise that I can share with you. Forgiveness is a decision. You'll know when you've truly forgiven because you'll feel at peace. Let's look at the benefits. The benefits are endless, really, but here's a few. Improved relationships, of course, because of the emotional healing, reduced stress, lowered blood pressure, improved immune system, enhanced overall well being. The brain changes again. There's a science behind all of this. Studies examining brain activity during the process of forgiveness highlight regions that are involved in the brain having to do with empathy, having to do with compassion, having to do with emotional regulation. Practicing forgiveness can lead to those changes again, that neuroplasticity in the brain structure and in the function of the brain over time. So put a yes in the chat if you could benefit from some forgiveness for yourself and for others. We're almost done. We're actually to the last E. E is for express it. E in smile. It's being unapologetically happy. And that's what expressing it means. Let me tell you a quick story about the impact of expressing. There's there was a professor who had a large classroom, and he gave everybody in the classroom a balloon. And he said, and they're looking at him like, a balloon? What's this for? He gives them a pen and he says, I want you to write your name on the balloon, blow the balloon up, and take it in the other room and deposit it in the other room. So when he did that, and everybody put their balloon in the other room. He went and mixed them up so no one knew where their balloon was. And he let the students back in that room and he said, okay, you've got 5 minutes to find your own balloon. Well, within 5 minutes, no one had found their balloon and they came back into the classroom. And he said, okay, now I want you to go in that room and I want you to find any balloon. Just pick up any balloon and find the person that it belongs to. Give it to that person. Within 5 minutes, everybody had their own balloon. So, what does that mean? Well, you pay it forward. Instead of worrying about your own balloon and protecting it, you're openly helping others. You're openly giving to others. You're openly providing what they need, what they want. It goes back a few decades, in fact. Some of you may or may not remember the pay it forward movement, where people were actually paying for the coffee for the person behind them or in the laundromat or whatever. There was a beautiful movement where people were giving to one another. Now imagine that impact and imagine paying it forward. Imagine giving a balloon to just 4 people a month. Well, how do you give a balloon? Inspire them with your own joy. That's a balloon in and of itself. Your own joy is a balloon. And if you did that just one time a week, those 4 people a month, it would exponentially explode if every one of those four did the same thing. So that's my goal. My hope is the fact that this will become an epidemic, that people around the world will learn to give each other balloons instead of war, instead of hurt, instead of fear, that will impact one another with a smile. Just a simple smile. It's all it takes to pass it forward. So don't give up. Keep paying it forward. Keep passing those balloons. Keep the emotional contagion flowing. Maya Angelou, beautiful poet, has a quote: people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. How do you feel when somebody out of the blue smiles? Doesn't it make you to some degree want to smile too? So, by expressing your happiness, by celebrating, we set in motion our legacy, how people will remember us. You always have a smile. And Chi Chi has got a beautiful smile. How do you want to be remembered? Put it in the chat. Or when you're watching this and there's no chat that you can put it in the comments. I want to see comments from people on these recordings. I want to see people responding. How do you want to be remembered? Please put that in the comments. And lastly, let's look at those benefits again. Celebration helps cement our progress. Within ourself, there's that dopamine rush that joy has created, and the brain remembers feeling joyous, and the brain gets literally addicted to that joyousness. It likes it, it asks for it over and over again, and it becomes habit to be happy. That's why I'm here. I want to give you the habit of being happy. Happiness increases our resilience, we cope better, our relationships improve, making everybody happier. So, how would you want to celebrate? What would make you really, really happy? Would it be skydiving? Would it be hot air ballooning, dancing, singing, maybe traveling to a place that you've dreamed of, dancing for an audience, visiting a national park? What's your dream celebration? And work towards that. So, what's your next step? Why would anybody delay in changing this sort of life? Your energy transforms others, not just your own. And for those of you who can see the benefits of being happy, of growing into a life of fulfillment where your children, your loved ones, your friends, and coworkers will be inspired by you, the road ahead can be a lot shorter than, say, it was for me. It can be easier to accomplish when you have loving support, when you have feedback, accountability, expertise guiding you, and the right tools for you at the right time from somebody who has those resources, who has the framework and genuinely cares about you and your success. That's my why. I recognized it as a youth when I knew I had to push through the depression. I had to get to that place where I could truly express who I am. And my path is here with you. My path is absolutely here with you. I know that not only is my time now, yours is too. Otherwise, why are you here? Why are you watching this video? It's time. It's time for you to achieve your personal garden of life with all the beauty and all the growth, and for all of those around you who will be impacted by your own growth, by your own happiness. Here's a story from a client that has to remain anonymous. I'm going to give her the name Marianne. She was in a dark place, a fearful place, prior to my working with her, even mentioning that she considered harming herself. And although she had a lot of friends, she really wasn't happy at home, and her relationship with her partner could be improved. But most of all, she wasn't happy with herself. She didn't feel deserving or worthy. She couldn't imagine affirming being happy and worthy. But within 3 to 4 weeks of implementing my framework, she began sleeping better. She began not letting the outside world overwhelm her with fear. And she's looking at life more positively. Her family relationships have improved, and she's inspired now to work in the community again. She'd given up on that, but she's now inspired to do work with children again. So to get to your place of peace, of purpose, of fulfillment and joy more securely, safely, because it's important to have that security, that safety, consistently, and certainly faster than you can reach by yourself. Using my SMILE framework includes the tools, includes the support, includes the safety and the experience that I personally have for you. When you invest in yourself, like those balloons, you're actually investing in everyone who is in your life. Pay it forward. Relationships improve, and so much more, as we've discussed over the 5 acronyms of silence, mindfulness, intent, letting it go, and expressing. Smile. My goal for you, for each of you, is to celebrate within just a few weeks the changes for good that you're developing in your life. For each of you to become energized with your own purpose. For each of you to celebrate daily the good that enters your life and the opportunities for growth. To recognize that change comes from within all of us and that it's an opportunity to ultimately help others do the same. I'm going to put a slide up that gives you the resources to, oops. Well, here we go, smile. I have to show this slide because I can't look at it and not smile. It makes me laugh. I love this picture of this silly ostrich smiling. Okay. So I promised some gifts at the end, and what my gift is that I'm going to extend it because yesterday during the live presentation and the people that were in the audience, I said I would give them a full hour instead of the normal half-hour personal call with me for free if they signed up before midnight or within 8 hours, we'll say. And although we had some takers on that, I don't want to minimize the fact that they did go through the effort to be there live with me yesterday. It was my fault that I forgot to hit record. So when you're watching this on the video, oh, geez, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this because I can't give everybody an hour call, but I am going to offer it that if you sign up, let's see, today is the 24th. If you sign up, if you watch this video and you sign up by the end of the day on the 26th, that'll give you 48 hours. That I'll give you a free 1 hour call as well. That's my gift for watching this replay and for my mistake of not having recorded it. And there's no obligation beyond that. It's a free call. We'll just explore what your next steps could be. So there's the links. You can either take a picture of the QR code, which will take you to my calendar where you can set up an appointment, or you can go to my Facebook group. Well, not or, I do want you to go to my Facebook group and join because a lot more resources will be there for you. There are videos that go deeper into the science, that go deeper into transcendentalism, that go deeper into a lot of things. And there will continue to be more resources there for you. And I will, if you join the group, I will have a post in there where you can actually get copies of this slide, these slides and some notes if you'd like, as well as some other things. So join the private Facebook group. That's free, of course, as well. Go to my calendar and set up a meeting with me. And Don't wait. Don't wait. The cost is more to sit and wait and not fully love life right now, especially when that first call is absolutely free. So I look forward to talking with you very soon. And again, my calendar is open through the end of the month, but after that, it gets a little bit bad. So please sign up now. And if you have any questions, again, because this is a re-recording or a do-over, put the questions in the comments, if you would, please. Please put your questions in the comments, and I will be watching to answer them. Thank you all for watching this presentation. Namaste. Thank you.